Good morning, welcome to our live talk program. This is Norgab here, your host on Revive Reform Radio, doing our live talk program covering wisdom for living on this your Friday morning. Rise and shine and give God the glory. And this morning here, we're looking at Proverbs chapter 24, verse 27, Proverbs 24, verse 27. And our topic is do not build a house until you are sure you can earn a living. Do not build a house until you are sure you can earn a living. And this is our process of meditation for this morning here. And I pray that God may bless you and bless my mind as we look at this. Let us pray. Oh, Father, what in heaven, I thank you again for your wisdom. We thank you, dear Lord, for simply bringing your truth to our minds, not only, dear Lord, by your word, but by the experiences of life. I pray, the Lord, you may bless my mind as I share these very important thoughts and processes of how, dear Lord, to go about life more successfully. Bless us, we pray, for Christ's sake. Amen. So we're looking here this morning I'm going to share one verse, Proverbs 24. I'm skipping down quite a few because a lot of the principles there in Proverbs 24 are principles that I covered in previous presentations. So I wanted to do this one because this one is dear and near to my heart because of the type of things I did in the past when it comes on to job. So being that I used to be in the mortgage industry or the housing industry, so kind of have some good insights to share that are very useful for person, young or old, as to what to do when it comes on to purchasing a house and how to go about it. So some very important principles we'll share from this one verse. So again, my topic is do not build a house until you are sure you can earn a living. And this can be said of any long-term commitment. Any long-term commitment you're going to make, you got to know that you have the wherewithal to basically take care of that commitment. If you can't, then making a commitment is null and void. Might not be in your mind at the time you're making it, but the principles of life, the rules and laws of life will undo whatever commitment or cause it to crash and burn. And you spend a lot of time trying to save something that is not salvageable because it was not a commitment made in sense or in reason. So in Proverbs 24, verse 27, we have our beautiful passage here. And it says here, prepare thy work without and make it fit for thyself in the field, and afterward build thine house. So very powerful there. Prepare thy work without and make it fit for thyself in the field, and afterward build thine house. Very simple, straightforward principle. You go and prepare thy work without, right? And make it fit for thyself. So your focal point first is to make sure that it is fit. That word fit is translated various different ways. So you make sure it's sure, it's a solid work. And when it's fit for thyself, then afterward you build your house. So in other words, there's multiple ways you could say this, but this is very specific to building a house. You could say you put you put the horse before the cart. I guess the horse could push the cart, but the horse, in a sense, move forward, and so its motion, especially its high horsepower, not like an ox. It still doesn't put a plow before the ox. The better motion is to put the plow behind the ox. You put the cart behind the horse. You don't make the horse push it, you make the horse pull it. So it's just the forward motion is better that way. So hence you have this situation here where what do you do first? You first make sure you can make the money and you secure that. After that, you can do whatever you can. And as I say, this principle goes again with any long-term commitment or many other things in life. What you're trying to secure first is the ability to earn a living. Then any other things that comes After that, you can secure it, but you can't secure without the income or the ability, the skill. The skill is what happened. If it's a trade, it's a skill. It's a career, it's still a skill, but it's something that you've learned to maneuver and work within. And if it's like a farm, it's a skill, but also there's more components to a farm. You have to go lease the land. You have to know to work this within the seasons. So you're not just gonna go out there and say, "I want to be a farmer. Let's go buy a house," and then you're gonna start learn farming, and then what you're gonna find is that money you're using on the house is gonna be needed in the farm to build a farm up. Now, after the farm is built up, then you can go buy your house. That's the principle here. Very simple principle, but we're gonna explore this. Now, I'm gonna take a few translation here to give us a broader picture of what the text is saying. New Living Translation says, "Do your planning and prepare your field before building your house." Right? So do your planning, prepare your field before building your house. Because you got to plan it out. There's more planning, as I say, when you come on to farming. Think about it. You're going to farm something. You got to get the produce to market. What market? What is the going rate for the product? What it is selling for per pound? How are you going to get it to market? There's all these questions that a farmer has to deal with. So say the farmer did all of that, but he forget, oh yeah, how am I going to transport it? I'm just here to farm land. I'm not here to be dealing with transportation and logistics. Well, that's what he's going to find out. He's going to get burned. And so say he get burned this year and he already bought a home. He's in a pickle. So the best thing for him to do is to first plan his work, prepare his field, before building a house. Then after the money is coming in and you know, hey, this money is fit, this money is certain, then he goes and buy a house. And this can be said, as I say, I don't want to say too much to divert your mind from what I'm talking about, because I'm talking about purchasing a house. But this can be said with a lot more things in life: ministry, relationships, just so many things that you put the horse first, not the cart. English Standard Version renders this: prepare your work outside, get everything ready for yourself in the field. After that, build your house. Very straightforward again. Berean Study Bible says, complete your outdoor work and prepare your field. After that, you can build your house. You're free to do it. Whatever you want to do, you do that. Here, Good News Translation says, don't build your house and establish a home until your fields are ready and you are sure that you can earn a living. You have to be sure of that. So don't build your house. Flip it the other way around. Don't build your house and establish your home until your fields are ready and you sure you can earn a living. So that means it's not that, you don't go out there and like already counting the money. And you know how much. No, the fields are ready. Everything is good. And if you know farming, those fields don't get ready when you put in the grain in. There's work that you have to do on the field to certain that you can get the yield that you think you can get. Now you might talk to somebody and they say, oh yeah, I'm getting this amount of bushel, and my fields are yielding this amount of money. You think, oh, I just go and plow the field, throw in some grains, and voila, next reaping season, I can make this amount of money. So you go out already and buy a house. And then you buy the house and you realize, wait a minute, the guy that just told me that he's been in farming for 30 years, his fields are set up and ready to go. He knows what to do to increase his yields, whatever. So he can go out and buy his house, and he can go buy his tractor and his trucks and everything like that. A new person come up in the business now, they want to buy those tractors and stuff like that, and they didn't even earn the first paycheck. So they're not ready for anything. So instead of they go out now and say, hey, let's go buy a used tractor, a used pickup. Let's have to put in double the work, because that guy, when he started, put in double the work, so I'm gonna have to put in double the work. I don't have to build myself up, and then now I go out and I say, okay, I'm ready for it. So this is basically the process. As I say, it's a principle that it does not apply just to housing, but it's very important. So for the rest of the time, I'm talking about housing because I want you to get the principle as clear as possible. Now, one of the first things here that I would say here with this principle is invest in business or career or trade first, and you make those things buy your house. Now that's a simple principle. That is the reality of life. You invest, but we don't approach life for the most part like this, but that's literally how life works. And it works like that, especially if you're going to buy a house on credit, right? If you're going to buy a house on credit, the banks, I'm going to go over these, the banks require certain things. They require normally income, credit, they require earning, which is the income, and then they require deposit. Yeah, and that's normally the main three things. There are other things I could look at. But there's other mitigating factors. You know, all but I'm gonna talk about all of them before we finish. But they can say they call them compensating factors, but we deal with the main factors. So this is what the bank is doing. So normally the bank will say, okay, you don't have to use cash to build your house. We'll give you the money, and we give you the money upfront. But we're going to give you the money based upon, number one, you have a vested interest in the house. That's a deposit. Want you to have some skin in the game. Want you to basically risk something. Want you to have a dog in the fight. And your dog in the fight is we need to come with a deposit. Then they say, well, we need you to show that you have the earning potential. And then we need you to go ahead and see if you've ever paid credit, because this is not you buying cash now. So we need a credit history. Those are the main three things. Other things are there, but your ability to pay back what they're lending upfront in order for you to secure this property, whether you're building it brand new or you're buying it an existing home. So here now is where I say normally how life work. When you're gonna do something like this, you're gonna basically do it based upon your existing business, the career that you have, or the trade that you have. Now, each of those things is what normally we say is normal process, but often in the midst of trying to do it, especially a person is younger and they're trying to establish themselves in a career, or even an older person, say they switch careers or they got a promotion. So say the person got a promotion, they were a regular person working at the desk, doing a career. Now they got a promotion, they're now a supervisor. On that income, they'll say it's time for me to either buy a house or buy a bigger home or a better home or a newer home, just like buying a car. But what it is that the first year on the job, in that new career, in that new position, that higher position, is not income stability. Because the person could do well, or the person could get demoted or get fired because they crashed the department. So this is where income stability is important. But often when doing this type of business, as I say, young or old, the person could make a move before the surety or the fitness in the field is made. So the investment is better made first and let the career or the trade or the business pay for the house or build the house. But it's not so much that we don't do it that way. It's more so that we often short circuit the process by doing it too fast. In other words, the field is not secure. And that's why you say career field, because we all work fields, even though we might not go farming, but all business is just business. So it's a career field that you're working in. Make sure that the career field is secure, or make sure that you're in an industry that is a secure industry, because if you're in an industry that is in a downward spiral and you got a job in it, that field is not fit. And so because that field is not fit, you could go buy a house and 3 years from now you're laid off. That was coming. You knew it. Or you heard ramblings about it and you didn't take note. Am I in a secure career path? Am I in a company that's gonna belly up, close, and ship the jobs abroad? What is your situation? You gotta know that it's secure. So it's better. It would be better for a person to live in an apartment and own a business, or live in a condo or a townhouse and own a business, and they pour all the extra money that they would put into a house in the business or the career, and let the kids grow up in an apartment or a condo or a townhouse than let them grow up in a house. Because when children are children, the core of life is not what you have. Remember, you don't learn that until you get older. Unless you're in dire poverty, you don't fully get square footage and home ownership. You don't understand the American dream at 6. So it's not necessary for a 6-year-old to live in a house, because that's not something that they understand. But a lot of times people say, well, the family is growing, it's time for me to move into a house and have a noose around my neck. And this is where the problem is, and they're not even fully settled into their career. Or you find the opposite can happen, where a person now a couple become an empty nester, and their kids are gone, and now they're saying, oh, it's time for me to go move into a bigger house. And you'd be like, okay, the house probably was too big already, and you go into a bigger house. I know you have this nice, plush, brand new, spanking new house, and now you're paying money unnecessarily, and you're not preparing for the next step in life. But I'm not going to go there. I'm not talking about retirement. But the person can waste money on that. So invest in the business, the career, and the trade, and then you build your house. Now, this is important also, because of what type of house you're going to build, because it could be more advisable to pay a certain amount of money in an apartment, especially in the younger years of your career, and take the excess money and either dump it, as they say, back into the business to increase the profitability of the business, or into your career by going back to school, or into a trade by literally going back to school or spending more time doing the trade. And as you do that, what it is that the increased income will make you be able to better get a house that's more according to what you need or what you want. But if you push the limit too fast, too quick, you could be burning too much money in interest and too little money in principal, or literally in the brick and mortar that build the house. So it's the first principle that's important. So, and this is something that can't be underestimated. You first build the income potential and the career potential before you go out there and spend too much money. And I've even applied this principle to church. You can see sometimes a church doesn't secure the ability that they need to do before they go out there and buy a mega church. I know a church even recently that did that, and then the church went in a downturn, and now they have this 2 million plus or almost 2 million debt that they have to deal with, but they didn't secure first the people. In other words, let the people do that, not like probably a few people on a board do that or a pastor do that. Because if you don't have the people, you're not gonna. The people secure the debt, and when you buy the house, you're securing that debt, and both of it is house. So you can apply the same principle. It's all house of worship, your personal house. So when you apply the principle, you will do the principle even for a house of worship. It would be better to be renting than to own something that you're in debt and you have no serious way of securing that debt. And then what? You secure the income potential first. Next principle here is income security is not just having a job, or are you settled in that job? So income security is being settled in a job. And normally you would say being settled in a job or a career or a business is normally, let's say, 3 to 5 years. It could even take 10 years. And I would say, unless you are a person, this is the caveat here now. If you're doing a business, unless you were a person working in the industry before, the 3-year principles, I think the principle is not true. I don't believe it work. To me, to be settled into a business or a trade and even a career takes more than 3 years. You just think even about it, somebody like a doctor and stuff like that. You wouldn't say they're a seasoned doctor and that money is truly secured. Malpractice lawsuit could take them out in the first 3 years. You wouldn't say, like some people say, oh, I want to do my own business. Really? That's not always a good thing. The reason why is because it's better to go be a journeyman in all careers. Go work for a law firm. Don't hang your own shingle if you're a lawyer, if you're a doctor. Go work for somebody else. Go work with somebody else. Let them teach you on the job, because that's the best place to work. So that focal point, somebody just finished their residency and they say, okay, I'm done now, I'm ready, I'm secure, I need to go open up my own place. No, go work with some people in the industry and learn from them and let them basically take a cut off your top. Whatever you're making per hour, they take a cut off of it and they get theirs. That's security, because you're resting on their security. And then after that, now you go build your house, because the work is fit, the work is sure, but you don't settle on that. So I believe that it's longer. I remember years back they say, oh, you need about 3 years. But I realized that worked very well if a person has been in the industry for years. Even think about an investor. When an investor is going to invest with you, if you're doing your own business, one of the first things they ask you is, what's your background? Why are they asking you that? Because if you're going to go out on your own and you're going to do a business and you come up with this very straightforward idea that I want to build computer monitors, and somebody say, what? You're going to go up against all those juggernauts over there in China? We want to build. You want to build it in America? Really? Are you going to pay people how much dollars an hour to build them, while they're building them so cheap in China and other places? And so if you say something like that, and the next question somebody's going to ask you is, what's your background? And if your background is not, oh no, I work for HP, I worked for HP, or I'm currently working for HP and I'm just about to quit, or I'm working for Dell and I think I can do it. I've worked in China before in the factories in management and I think I can do it. If your answer is not that, you got to come up with a very good answer, and I would like to hear that answer, because basically somebody's going to put money out on you. This is to me the same as investing in a house. Somebody's going to put money out on you, and you got to be so certain, and they got to be so certain that you know what you're doing. So, and it still could take, even after having all this experience, 3 years, but I say minimum, for you to work out the kinks in that business. Just the same as a farmer. I've known people, oh yeah, I'm going to do a little garden. Pure headache. And now imagine if they're having that all the headache and it's a garden. Imagine now you say they're gonna farm 50 acres, 80 acres, 100 acres. That's gonna take some experience, and it's gonna take 3 years just to get settled into that business. And that's for a person who was farming before. But as I say, normally I would think 5 to 10. You give it 5 to 10 years, and then you're talking. And we're not talking about 5 to 10 years and you're renting a house. I'm going to deal with that in a second. It's 5 to 10 years renting something small so you can focus not on cleaning the house and maintaining the house and maintaining lawn. We're talking about your focus on settling into that career. You make everything go to hell in a handbasket, so to speak, and you focus on the career, the trade, the business, the trade that you're doing. Make sure you're good at the trade. And when you're good at the trade, when you walk away, if you're doing plumbing, you walk away from that pipe fitting, you don't think about it. When you get to that point where you have to think about it, say, did I do that right? Then now you can say, on that skill set, I can build my house. I can buy a house. The banks will be okay. You rush it beyond that point, you're not. As I say, I give it about 5 to 10 years, and you're seasoned. If you were never doing that before, now, if you were doing it before with somebody else, then it still could take even 3 to 5 years on your own. Because I'm gonna tell you, when you're on your own, it's so different, because the things that you never had to think about, that somebody has always did, now it's your responsibility. You have to think it through, and you never used to that. So you're gonna have to learn how to think through things and deal with things that somebody else was. It was always somebody's responsibility, and that's the difference. So this is how, this is why the Bible is very true. Do not build until you secure. You can be sure you can earn a living. Now, another point there is nothing wrong with renting. Do not listen to people talking about you're throwing away money when you rent. Remember that you could go buy a house today and you'll pay the same amount of interest rate every year and every month that you pay for rent, right? So you could go out there right now, you look at an apartment, and the apartment costs you say, I'm gonna go a little bit low here, so $700 to $1,100, one bedroom apartment. All right, depending on market, wherever you're listening to me from. If you're outside the United States, it's different. But the idea can be applied, because depends where you're living. The cost of a house could be less or more. So somebody could say to you, "Oh no, you're throwing away money." But remember, when you're gonna buy a house, you're buying a house that normally is close to twice the size of an apartment, because you get more space. So normally a house, you would say a bread and butter house inside of the United States is 1,500 square feet. It's normally a bread and butter house. So, you're just a normal run-of-the-mill house that you see all over the place. 1,500 square feet. Could be a little bit more, a little bit less, but I think that's the average. You could check me on that. I never pulled the search on it, but I just know from my mind somewhere around there. A normal apartment is about 750 to 850. That's a normal 750 to 850 square feet. That's a normal apartment. So when you're renting, you're paying for a smaller space, because remember, everything is square footage. But the flip of that also is when you're buying a larger space. The difference is your square foot cost in renting is higher than your square foot cost in owning. The reason being is that the person building the apartment or owning the home, they invest in first, and then they have to pay for their money. A lot of time they're borrowing the money. So the money, they're using the money, somebody else's money. So you not going to the apartment have to pay for that money plus profit. Profit could anywhere be 15 to 25%. It could even be more if it's a sweet deal. But on the average. So you're going to have to pay for the property, and then you're going to have to pay for the profit, because it's their labor, their risk. Yet, and then if it's a building where it's multiple properties, they build it for less per square feet, if you understand. If you go 2-3 stories, multiple units per floor, they're paying for less for heating, less for maintenance, because everything is volume price. So they can rent it to you for less and so forth. So you're going to pay either way. But initially what you're paying for is literally a smaller property, and you might pay a little bit more per square feet, but you're still paying for smaller property, and something you're paying for volume. So they rent it in volume, they give you a volume discount. So understand that. So again, even if you did the calculation, which I won't do it right now, you did say $65 a square feet for an apartment, and then it's not that high, but whatever it is, I'm trying to figure it out. But anyway, $65 a square feet. But when you go to buy, you're buying for $55 a square feet. But the difference is you're buying a larger property. Now, there's other ways around this, as you know, where you can buy in a lower income neighborhood. You have less security, so forth and so on, but you pay less. So But I'm not talking about that scenario. I'm talking about the apples for apples. You're renting in this town or buying in this town. It's apples for apples, straight across the board. So nothing wrong in renting, if you understand my drift. And also, if you're renting and you feel a bit secure, you can rent in a lower income area. Not probably the lowest you can find, but lower. And then what it is, you put your focus now. And this is to me one of the benefits of actually renting at a certain point in your life. You can put your focus on your career, job, or your business. Not only money, but mindset wise. You have less to maintain. Property can become a distraction. And they can become too much involved. The same can be said for an older person. Most old people don't want to leave their homes, but it's a big mistake they make because they can't maintain it anymore because it's a headache. It's too big. The same can be said for somebody young and free. So nothing wrong. Don't let anybody tell you because it's a numbers. You have to calculate the numbers. Don't let somebody say it's a blanket rule. It's just like saying leasing. It depends on what you're doing. But it doesn't work for 99%, not 99, but it don't work for a lot of people, although a lot of people do it. But you have to show the numbers. If somebody, again, just starting their career, they can't afford times off, it might not be the best idea for them to have a car that's going to break down the road with them all the time. It's a distraction. Sometimes you're going to have to pay the piper. Does that make sense? And so that's just the reality of life. It depends on the situation, and somebody would have to show me the numbers. And I've seen numbers where buying just doesn't make sense on the situation. As a matter of fact, forget about it. I've seen numbers where the person could not buy, no matter how much they were willing, because there ain't nobody giving them no loan, and their only option is renting. And that's normally a number one indicator that you shouldn't. if nobody would touch you because you're contagious or you're dangerous, and you're gonna cause them sufferings and they're gonna lose their money, probably that's an indication that you're not ready yet for a bigger commitment, because that's all our home ownership is, a bigger commitment. Because normally, again, when you have a rental, say apartment complex, you're normally sharing the pain for the land, number one, and the development of the land with a whole bunch of people. While in a housing situation, you could be sitting in a quarter acre lot, half acre, 2, 3, 4 acres. You're paying for that square footage. So it's just a comparison. So a small space and less money, nothing is wrong with that, because that frees you up, or probably that you don't have the money because you're trying to make it in the career. And as I say, if you go into most careers, you're going to find to be settled in the career and become proficient, it could take you 5 years to be vested, 10 years really to be even invested when it comes on to a retirement fund. That means that 10 years they say, you just gave enough that we can give you back some money when you get old. What does that tell you? That tells you that, say, you shouldn't be rushing out there. And what does that tell you? Tell you that a lot of people who bought home and foreclosed, if you listen to this presentation, by the time I'm finished, you will really realize that there's a lot of people who were foreclosed. These were the reasons why they're foreclosed. They did not shore up the work in the field, and they went out and jumped into something that 10 years later they're going to become in a foreclosed. And then somebody say, oh, it's because the economy crashed. But if you interview them, they'll tell you, oh, for the last 10 years it's been a fight because we were way over our heads. You follow these principles, you'll never be over your head. Next thing here, the initial shock that comes with larger square feet and larger utility. So there's an initial shock that comes with that. Most such as I say, if you're in an apartment, it's 800 square feet, 750 to 850, 800 square feet. And you go down to a house that's 1,500 square feet. That's almost double the square footage. That means it's double the heating, double the cleaning, double the cooling if you cool wherever you're at in the world. It's double the furniture, it's double the utility bills, it's double everything. So you have more space to run around, and you can run around and go, woo! But you have to make sure you can handle that. So you got to look at it and say, is my field yielding enough? And can I get this product to market? And That's the reality. If it can't, then you're over your head. The initial shock can be crazy. And that's just reality. As a matter of fact, I give a rock solid example. I remember when me and my wife, we moved into our home. Went from literally the numbers I'm talking about is 800 and something square foot apartment to a house. There was an electric heating. The first winter blew my mind because the first winter, I think the January bill or the February bill, what I think it was the January bill came in, I think it was close to or a little bit over $600. I was shocked because remember, it will only take a few more $100 and we'll be covering our rental. Just hear me out. I'm going to repeat one more time. Our rental to rent was only a few $100 more than what we paid for the January heating bill. All right, so just imagine that's what they call startling shock. So I not knowing this and not knowing the brutality and the beatdown that came, I decided immediately, I'm gonna put in a pellet stove, a wood burning pellet stove, wood pellets I should call it, not wood burning, but wood pellets, and slash the heating bill like by half or less. It just dramatically dropped it, but that was like irks. So now imagine now that's another, I think it was like $4,000. So the next month, so just imagine you're going from an apartment and you're renting, and then you go to a house and you go to a heating bill, not any other bill, just one bill, almost the cost of your rental 1 month. The next month you go to a $4,000 purchase plus. I still have the receipt. A receipt I should frame and put on a wall. You know, like if I'm doing a seminar like this, I wish I'd kept that electric bill. I should have called the company and said, send me that electric bill so I could photocopy it and then frame it. And then I could frame the following month the cost for the pellet stove. Because I realized this too has to pass. So what I'm saying here is really practical. You're going from this to that, but with some unknown cost. So when you see often that people say, oh, I've been struggling, like, nah, you didn't be struggling. The problem is not knowing. The ignorance gets people, and there's people still struggling right now. That if you do the numbers, and I've done numbers on people and thinking, listen, I've told people tough situations, because nobody told me. So now I share with you. You need to move back to an apartment. You need to cut. You need to sell, cut, and run. Your income does not match your expenditure. You're way over your head. Because the numbers don't lie. But if you don't know the numbers, this can be shocking. So just imagine 600. So going from rental, forget about mortgage and interest and all that stuff. 600 a month, 1 month. Realize, that's crazy. I got burnt, literally, with heat. The heat was burning me. And we weren't even warm in that heat because that's a weak heat. One of the most expensive. If you look at the cost of heat, it's the most expensive heat, and you don't get comfortable. And then the next month, 4,000 plus pellets. Pellet costs about $200 and something a ton. You're burning through tons of that, and pellets. So that was like almost close to $5,000 just in the next month. So you just imagine the burn rate is high. So in that month, we did separate from mortgage and stuff. We did just in energy heat for January and February. We easily did over $6,000. So just imagine going from a few, less than $1,000 for rent to $6,000 in 2 months. Or in 1 month, because that was like February, March. All right, so you see my number there. And you say that to a person and say, oh no, the American dream. Yeah, it's a dream, all right. It's a dream where you see a pack of wild dogs running and you're just running after you, or you're just running for your life, sweating, jumping, and the dogs never stop until you wake up out of your dream screaming. So the initial shock comes for larger square feet and larger utility. Also, remember, like in that situation, I already proved that point. The next point is cash is king. Have some, and the more the merrier, because you're going to burn through cash. So you're going to have to be making that money. So when you look at those field, whatever field you're in, your field of career, your farm, you got to see money on the field. If you don't see money on the field, you're not ready. Because cash is king. Because whatever going to go wrong will go wrong. And I'm telling you, that's the reality with life. Whatever going to go wrong, it will go wrong. Things just break. When you're doing your budget, in every, I would say about every section, not every section of your budget, you have to do miscellaneous. But one thing I've learned when doing a budget, if the section for your housing, you put a miscellaneous. Miscellaneous to me is a minimum of $100. Even when it comes on to food, you put miscellaneous. You put miscellaneous for, because there's going to be always something come up. For transportation, miscellaneous. Something's going to come up and you're going to have to drive an extra tank. So let me ask you this. What does it cost you to fill your tank of gas? You have 13 gallons on the average, 400 and something miles. And either you can calculate it by knowing how many, what's the cost of gas and how many miles per gallon your car burn. And I could quickly tell you what you pay for gas. So something's going to come up and you probably that month you're going to drive up and drive. And that's going to cost you 30 something to 50 something dollars a tank. It depends what you drive. You're driving a car and pickup. So I could just sit here and do, this stuff is in my head so much I could do your budget without just you tell me the car and I could pull up online and tell you how much you pay per tank of gas. And that's what you have to do. So now imagine somebody did a budget and they know they spend, say, $200 a month for gas, $50 a week. But they didn't put in an extra, padded by extra, say, tank of gas. And this month they had to do 4 extra run. They had to do a long run. Boom. There goes that extra $30, $40, $50, $60. And you start doing that on a monthly basis. And when you finish the year, you have over $600 extra spend that you didn't budget for. And you start add that to various different aspects of your life. And you can see it quickly. It could take somebody 5 or 10 years and they're going bankrupt and they didn't even know what hit them. So this is why you have to make sure, again, cash is king. You got to know the fields have to be prepared. And you have to look at that field and say, that field is going to buy me this new house. And then I'm in. I'll come over and I'll help you celebrate your house, your opening of your house. I pray for the house also. And I pray more so for your field, whatever that career field you're in. Now, 29% of income. So whatever money you're making, the government says the maximum you should be spending on housing is 29%. So if you're making $50,000, they want you to spend no more than $14,000 a year maximum. The closer you get to this 29% is the more risk you are of foreclosure. The higher you get over that 29% is the more guarantee that you will foreclose. In the 2009, 2007, 2008 financial crash, I always say 2007 because it's important for you to know that crash was already done by 2000. It officially was declared 2008, but those companies were already finished. They were in free fall in 2007. Just want to clarify that. Before a person go bankrupt, they're already free fall. If they sit with a person that does financial consulting, they could calculate probably 2-3 years before the bankruptcy that they're going to go bankrupt. Their money, the field is not producing enough to match their spending. So 29%. So if you're making $50,000 a year, 29% of that would be $14,000, $500. That's the maximum you should take out of that $50,000 and put to housing. The more over this is more risk. But remember, this does not include utilities. If you're down south, you're going to be running AC all year long, air condition. If you're up north, you're going to be running heating all year long. And if you're in the middle of America, you'll be running both AC or heated, or you're just gonna dress warm in the winter and dress skimpy in the summer and get fans. So if you take that same $14,000 divide by 12, it's $1,200 a month for housing. And as I said, that doesn't include utilities, maintenance, so forth and so on. If a washing machine break, you're done. If a dryer break, you're done if you're maxed out. This doesn't include what the government takes, what you're supposed to be given into church and charity. Doesn't include your food and your clothing, your transportation, your so forth and so on. You get the point. 29%. The further you stay from that figure is the more secure you be. Over the years, they have proven it over again. The subprime mortgages were basically 29% or close to that number or higher. The people were not able to pay out. And those mortgages were dangerous because they might approve the person close to that 29%, but the interest rate was going to start adjusting within a year or 2 years, assuming the person was going to make more money. Most people weren't making more money because anyhow the economy was going down anyhow. So imagine you bought a home and in 2-3 years from now, your income did not go up. It stayed the same, but the cost of the home went up because the interest rates start rising. So you start at say 7% and they end up at 9%, 10%, 11%. That just, you already were maxed up by the government. That just says you're done. And that was just like a time bomb. It was going to go off. It's just a matter of time. All right. So very important. We won't, for sake of time, we'll move on. Another important point is banks want at least 2 years of income, minimum 2 years of income in the same career. That's what a bank want. Anything less is risky. And over the years, I've said the fact that, as I say, really 3 years to me is more reasonable. Because it's the same with a business. Either the person had like for instance, the only way they'll change this, like example, say you were an LPN and you became a RN, they'll look at the LPN as a logical line. It's a logical move. Say you were working as a security guard and then you became a police. They'll say, okay, that's logical. And it's the same thing in business. Say you were working in the industry, you went on your own, you're more secure for the bank. The bank will look at it as a logical progression. So as long as it was a logical progression, the previous career or trade was viewed as security. Say somebody was a mechanic, but they were working in an express lube, and then now they're working for a dealership. They would say, well, the express lube counts. It's a logical progression. But say now you were working as a teacher, and then you started to work as a doctor, they would say that's not a logical progression. We don't know if this person gonna fail. We question it. And oftentimes they'll say, well, we probably need to secure ourselves by giving you a higher interest rate. So just in case you fail, we get some of our money back up front. So approach your life in the same way. Make sure that you're secure. Don't make somebody tell you you're secure. Don't make the need for having stuff blind your mind and make you take extra risk. These rules are good, sensible rules. They're not rules to be ignored because there's millions and millions of data points that these rules are drawn from, where they've seen a person didn't make a logical career move, will fail a lot of times and they will foreclose. These systems are blind to emotion, but human beings and their emotion are very logical. And so because of the logics, it's important to have these rules and ignore the emotions of people because they get tickle pink over buying a new home. At least 3 credit points to prove faithfulness in repaying. So since you're buying something with the future income in mind, now normally say, well, we need about 3 credit to prove that you have paid back your debtors. And they'll say, we'll take a risk on you based upon that. You've been faithful. So normally 3 credit points, normally 2 years again. Use the biblical principle, 7-year cycle. When you buy, I believe it's always best if you're going from an apartment. Now that I'm on the mountaintop, so I can look back down and say, okay, this is how I'll do it. It's best to go from sorry, apartment to condo. That's my belief system. Or apartment to townhouse. Because that's a logical line. And why is that? And when I say an apartment to I don't mean an apartment to a luxury townhouse or condominium. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about if you are already in a luxury apartment, probably you can go to a luxury townhouse or condo. But what I'm talking about here is that with the 7 year debt cycle, that is the biblical 7 years debt cycle, I believe in this, that it's better to go in a 7 year cycle so that you don't buy what you need. So say you're 25, you buy something that you're 32, yeah, I'm saying right, 32, you're going to pay off. So that wouldn't be a house. That would be more a condo, townhouse. And you buy it that way. And then now after you've paid or close to paid, you sell it. And then you buy the next step up. And if you have to do that 3 cycles, we can remember the average person in America moves about every 7 years. Literally, people work in mass with the 7 year cycle. So there's no need for you to over leverage yourself when you're younger. And there's many people who are already over leveraged and they're facing foreclosure. I would just say to them, sell, go back, step back. You have to make 2 steps backwards. You have to step past even a condo and step right back into an apartment. Save up your money, secure your income, and then go now and start the process back over. Townhouse, condo, house, or mini house, what I don't remember what they call them, small houses, to a regular bread and butter house, and then to that dream home. And probably by the time you reach the regular bread and butter house, your kids have moved out, and you decide that you don't need that dream home, by God's grace. So better do it that way. Next principle here, don't forget God and the poor when purchasing. Again, don't forget God and the poor when purchasing. You don't want to over leverage yourself, and then you're looking at that tithe, or you're looking at that offering and thinking, I'm not going to give it. You see some of the poor and thinking, I can't help them, because you literally can't. So don't overmax your income. That's a very important principle, because you'll be forced in a situation where you're going to be looking there and looking at that debt you have, and looking at the money, and basically have to make a faith decision. You make the faith decision first by, when purchasing, pull back. Don't max out what you should be affording, and you'll be best. Few texts for wisdom before we leave, some encouragement. Luke 12 verse 15. Luke 12 verse 15 says, and he said, and I'll pause here. So those are the main principles I want to share. You follow those principles. If you have to go, I'll upload this to the podcast. If you have to go back and listen to it, if you need to, I'm going to tell you prayerfully, if you need to pull back and go backwards, but don't sit there and just suffering and fighting with the banks and negotiating with the banks. Forget about that. This apartment is beautiful. It's nice and cozy. As a matter of fact, get a small apartment so you and your spouse can be close to each other at all times. It makes for a great experience. Luke 12 verse 15. And he said unto them, take heed and beware of covetousness, for man's life consists not in the abundance of the things which he possess. There's more to life. Love is what makes the world go around. And so, yes, you need somewhere to live and love. But remember, there's more to life. There's your religion. There's God. There is your family, your friends. There is time to take a break. There is just time to enjoy life. Life is more than just material possession. Don't let material possession become your God or become your slave master. There's more to life. So Christ simply said, take heed and beware of covetousness. Covetousness can make you have the stuff, but you're miserable, because guess what happens? You have no life. Have a life. Matthew 6 verse 31 through 34. Matthew 6 verse 31 through 34. It says, therefore take no thought, saying, what shall we eat, or what shall we drink, or what wherewithal shall we be clothed? For after all these things do the Gentiles seek. For your heavenly Father knoweth that ye have need of all these things. But seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. Notice again, all these things shall be added unto you. Take therefore no thought for the morrow, for the morrow shall take thought for the things of itself. Sufficient unto the day is the evil thereof. So you have enough challenges for the day. You have whatever you have to face. God says, all these things may be added unto you. So when you're doing life, just like pace yourself, calm yourself. Real quickly, you can become disillusioned with the things of this world. Because you realize the things of this world can basically, if you fret about them, worry about them, what it is, after a while you get them and they become a headache. I remember years back I was listening to a radio program and this guy was talking, and he said that often when we get the thing, they become our pain and our headache. And over the years I've proven that statement to be so true. You can fret yourself about something that is only a headache. I'm going to tell you, pace yourself. It's just like eating food. Pray and say, God, let me have self-control. And you go ahead and eat the food and God will bless you. Bible tells us, Christ tells us here, that don't worry about what you eat or drink. No matter about these things. Just seek God's kingdom first. And if you notice all the principles I share here, they're really biblical principles and rock solid sensible principles that have been tested over millennia. These principles are rock solid. Calm yourself. Give it all to Jesus. And Christ says, this is what the Gentiles want. They want a nice house. They want a nice car. But what the Gentiles didn't do is they didn't figure out, how am I going to secure the income? I tell you, it literally take about 5 to 10 years to be vested in a career where you can say, this career is mine. And when you have the type of skill, you'll make money wherever you go. So if you go somewhere and say, I want a house, the house is yours. Don't worry about it. It'll be yours. Don't rush out there. Make sure the first point of your life is to secure your income capability. Proverbs 3 verse 1 through 10. Proverbs 3 verse 1 through 10 says, my son, forget not my law, but let thine heart keep my commandments. For length of days and long life and peace shall they add to thee. Beautiful. Where you can't pay your bills, there's no peace. You will not have peace in your life. When you're under stress because you've invested so much in a house and it's going to go foreclosed, it will take away your peace. You don't want that to happen. Verse 3 says, let not mercy and truth forsake thee. Bind them about thy neck. Write them upon the tablet of thine heart. So shalt thou find favor and good understanding in the sight of God and man. Trust in the Lord with all thine heart, and lean not unto thine own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy paths. Be not wise in thine own eyes. Fear the Lord, depart from evil. It shall be health to thy navel, and marrow to thy bones. Honor the Lord with thy substance, and with the first fruit of thine increase. So shall thy barns be filled with plenty, and thy presses shall burst out with new wine. You secure the field first. You secure the income. You're faithful to God in all that you do. Never forget God. Never forget the poor. And when you do this, God will bless you and your vats will be increased. And when that increase, you say, I'm going to use that increase. I'm going to get myself my house because I secure my field. And my fields are having grapes burgeoning from every corner. And you don't forget not God, forget not the poor. And you take care of yourself. You make your heart be merry, and God will bless you. So do not build a house until you're sure you can earn a living. And when you do it that way, you put the horse before the cart, you'll be blessed. And God will continue to increase you and continue to increase your wisdom, that you see that these principles are rock solid and you want to live by these principles. These are principles to live by, wisdom to live by. Let's pray. Our Father who art in heaven, we thank thee again for the blessings of thy word. We thank you, dear Lord, for the wisdom that you give us. not only through your word, but our life's experience and even the hard things that we go through. May you bless us, dear Lord, that we might always walk humbly before thee and choose your ways and not the ways of our foolish mind. Be with us, we pray, for Christ's sake. Amen. Thanks for being with me here on Revive Reform Radio. Looking forward to talking to you live again tomorrow, Monday morning, when we should talk about motivation. Until then, I pray that you may continue to walk with the King.